We are going to be focusing on how to switch off from work while working from home. So what I'm going to do is take you through a presentation that presentation sounds all serious. Take you through a conversation today, guys, that I have put together. Again, this is all brand new for me. I always like to kind of give myself a bit of a get it out of jail free card whenever delivering stuff like this. And if I may explain, first of all, we are going to be talking about your health and your well-being. We're going to be talking about energy. We're going to be talking about stress. We're going to be talking about wellness. We're going to be talking about mental health and physical health, possibly within all of this. And it's just really important to stay at this stage that everyone looks at these things through different lenses. And whenever I'm trying to deliver this kind of conversation, I try and be as black and white as possible. The whole purpose of today is to give you as many clear actionables and kind of insights and knowledge as possible that you can integrate today to affect your energy today and affect your mindset today for tomorrow. And I've only got kind of 45 minutes with you to an hour. So I've got to be quite direct and I've got to be quite black and white. So if I say anything that feels a little bit off-putting, or if it's something that potentially triggers an emotion or a thought or a feeling, please do reach out to me. Feel free to ask me any questions as we go along. But more importantly, my time is your time. So if there is a conversation that arises that you're not comfortable with, please do reach out to me afterwards via email, and let's arrange a conversation behind closed doors where I can give you a little bit more context, or potentially apologize because maybe in my nervous state or being a bit anxious and being a bit excited, and because I'm delivering this in a new way, I just didn't deliver it in the right way. And that's why it might have caused a nerve. So it's just really, really important to reflect on that. It's also important to tell you why you should be massively skeptical of everything that I say. I feel like I'm like I don't know what's, I need to find this is what I'm used to, like just being up in front of people. This is all too weird. So I tried to look at myself with the corner. It's like weird. I've got screens here. God, I did behind the scenes shot. So it's really important to tell you why you should be skeptical of me. One, because I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm doing. Number two, depending on what you value knowledge-wise and experience-wise, I am not a therapist. I have not got a PhD after my name. I am a coach, yes, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I haven't got many letters after my name. I am on this journey with you. I am not a map maker. I am a journeyman. I don't know why I've been using that lately, but it kind of sits well with me. So I just really important to say that, like, that's a reason you should be skeptical of me. You should challenge me. And anyone who's trying to sell you anything relating to your health and well-being in the space of 45 minutes, you really need to question, because there are no quick wins in this game. Good health, good well-being is a lifelong process. It's about making 2 to 3% gains this year and looking at how that builds on next year, the year after that, and the year after that. So anyone who's trying to flog you anything, even though this is free, but anyone who's trying to sell you anything relating to your health and your well-being, you really need to question and be skeptical of. So I always like to say that. Again, that's why the questions are here, and that's why you can reach out after me afterwards and have a conversation. And the other reason you should be skeptical is because I'm still figuring all this out, and this is all brand new, this deck. So yeah, good luck, basically. Right, enough of that. How to switch on. So let's talk about the takeaways. And the takeaways that I put in the advert. I don't know, is that a word? The description. So the takeaways that I'm going to try and focus on today is obviously how to transition from work to home while working from home, how to show up for loved ones with the same level of energy that you've shown for your jobs. And it's always been, I kind of take that back a little bit. It's not necessarily the same energy, because you can't have an equal amount of energy at the end of a hard day, right? But at least have something in the tank ready to be able to kind of engage with loved ones or engage with yourself at the end of a hard day. We're going to look at how your physiology is influencing your psychology, my favorite subject, that connection between mind and body. You know, for me, physiology is just really untapped psychology. So we're going to be hopefully giving you some insight into that. We're going to be looking at how to set up personalized environmental cues for the behaviors you desire. That makes me sound like, does that make me sound like I've got letters after my name? I don't think so. My standards are low. But we're going to be looking at how to set up environmental cues. So well-being is all about mental, physical, social, and environmental health. And I'm not talking about plastic. There's no right. I mean, you know, we can have a conversation about plastic if you want to have a conversation about plastic, but we're talking about environmental, the environments we place ourselves in and how that affects our well-being, how it affects our health. We're going to look at how to shift gears, close down the stress cycle of day. And then we're going to look at how to develop habits and systems you can rely on when you're too tired to think. And then finally, we're going to look at how to take control of your workload today for more focus tomorrow. So this is, I mean, I can only do so much. You're all so different. There's such a broad range of mental, physical diversity. But I'm going to come back to these takeaways at the end, and hopefully we can tick off a few of them or give you a little bit of insight into some of these subject matters. And again, if you've got questions as we go along the way, you make sure that you ask me. I kind of want to see how many people in the room. I've see if you've all gone yet. But actually, do you know what? For anxiety reasons, it's probably just good to know. I'm just going to keep going. Are you all with me, people? Can I get an A? Can I get an A? That's bad, isn't it? Not an amen. Send me your favorite emojis. Are you there? Are you listening to me right now? Can you hear me? Come on, type your favorite. Yeah. Yep. Good. We are. What I love is at this point are a few of you looking at your keyboard going, how do I send emojis through my work keyboard? You are doing this right, Millie. You are absolutely doing it right. Yeah, I think it's Control Command Space. No, I don't know. Right, that's another. We're not going to do it. We're not going to talk about how to do emojis. Right. So, question for you. If I could. Oh, by the way, this deck I've done today. Right. This is really important. This deck I've done today, and I finished it about 20 minutes ago. This is free. So, be a bit kind to me. But I finished that, and I haven't even had a chance for Leanne, my partner in crime, my sense checker, to go through this. So if there's spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes, deal with it, right? Deal with it. We're talking about your health and well-being. But I do apologize at the same time as well. Right, so question. If I could refund you back 10% of the average energy you burn through in a day, how would you spend it this evening? If I could give you back some of that energy, right? If I could say, here you go, wave my magic well-being wand, how would you spend it? Give me some answers. Let's go. Think of one word that comes to mind. How would you use that extra energy? Nice. So you've got reading a book. Reading's always a big one, always a really interesting one. Absolutely rich. Giving it to other people in my life, spending it with loved ones. Exercise, right? Finding the energy to get out the front door. Calling my family. Amen to that. It takes energy to call our family. And it also takes energy to switch off, right? To start that process. Come on, Dula. C, we've got many more than that. Rebecca, give to my parents instead of being frustrated with them. Absolutely. And guys, this is a really important one, right? Is we understand this correlation between energy and us demonstrating desired behaviors, right? Like we realize that we need to be in a certain state, a certain way to be able to navigate the conversations with loved ones and friends and family, and not even necessarily tricky conversations, even just good and easy conversations. And obviously we need energy to develop new skills, new habits, new routines. So hopefully I'm gonna give you a bit of insight as to the role that energy plays from a physiological point of view in all of these things. And absolutely having meaningful or fun conversations with my husband. And Kate, you've absolutely nailed it. For me, my metric is I need to make sure no matter what I do during the day, that I can show up for my wife at the end of the day and have a bit of energy in the tank to be able to sit and have that conversation over the dinner table and really be present. And that's not some wishy-washy present. It's just really being able to focus and listen to her and be able to demonstrate the emotions that she needs from me in that conversation, or vice versa. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more. We're going to help you understand all these things, and to be able to understand. I've got double screening. You're not even seeing. I can't. Like, this is weird. I feel like I've got three screens. Don't. Oh, God, so weird. The principles of well-being. So to understand all of this, we need to really help you guys understand the principles, the foundations to well-being. Now, I've got to make this really clear that this is my foundations. These are my principles, right? So I'm not saying this is rule of thumb for everyone out there. And who am I to say I understand the true kind of foundations of well-being? This is it according to me, right? The book of Chev. Sorry, I don't know if that's a really bad thing to say. The book of Chev, but this is me. This is kind of how I figure things out. This is the principles. This is the foundations. This is where I start. And guys, it's really important because this isn't about keeping your shit together at the moment. Hopefully some of this stuff is about having the resources to maximize your potential throughout the rest of your life. So these are principles that we can take with us through everything, hopefully. And I'm really excited to explain these to you, but I'm still getting used to explaining them this way. So hopefully we'll get it across to you. So the principles of well-being. The first thing that I need to kind of ask though, and I need to kind of to talk about with you guys, and I need to ask you a question, is what keeps you up at night? What causes you stress? What causes your head to keep ticking over? Throw me some answers there. And while you throw me some answers, I need you to listen with both ears. And because this is about a sharing exercise, so let me share two things that keep me up at night. Let me share things that move. Like, one, absolutely at the moment, finances. Like, I'm really frank about that. Like, for me, money definitely keeps me up at night, people. You know, I've had to navigate and pivot my business over the last couple of months, weeks and months, and I had to pay my tax man 3 months ago. Anyone who knows me, I'm an ex-drug addict of over a decade. Me and financial well-being has been a tough road. And, you know, obviously lost a lot of business and lost all my revenue and paid the tax man a big bill a few weeks ago. So for me, like, at the moment, it's definitely something that's keeping me up at night, but all's good. Everything's looking really positive. I should just say that, though. It's really, everything's looking really great. I'm really happy about where everything is at the moment, but it's definitely something that, you know, I want to be a good husband. I want to be able to, you know, make sure we can eat. All those kind of things. But it's something that keeps me up at night. The second that keeps me up at night is definitely my wife. You know, she's going through a lot of challenges at the moment. There's a lot of stress within her job and her workload. So I definitely kind of think about her and so forth. So there are a couple of things that keep me up at night, and you don't have to share as deeply and so forth, but I just like to, obviously, if I'm asking you, it's important that I give back and do that. So let's look at some of the answers that you've got. I feel like a radio presenter right now. Do I sound like radio? I feel like I'm a fucking radio presenter. Right. Guys, yeah, so worrying about my health and how this affects loved ones. This knocks on to worrying about my future too much, which stops me living in the now. Absolutely. So we find one of the common answers to this is just really spending a lot of time worrying about the future, what may be, and also just our impact on those around us, right? But it's kind of, you got to also see the wonder in that, right, Rich? It's you're not that you're broken. I know that you might spend a lot of time thinking about these things, but remember, our brain's default mode is social cognition. We're designed to think about our relationships with loved ones and other people in the world. It's a great superpower that we have to keep priming us to be able to have the social relationships that we need. Hopefully today we can give you a little bit of understanding about the correlation between energy and keeping those thoughts a little bit in check, and to give you a process to also be able to deal with those thoughts. But I always like to say that, like, sometimes the things that cause us the most anxiety, we've got to look at the reasons that they're there and the positivity around that. Kate, actually very little, fortunately, but going to bed, being in bed before 11:30, 12 has been a challenge. It's a workload, feeling of absolutely. So again, not all of us have things that keep us up at night. And it's a really important thing. Like, just something else that keeps me up at night is positivity, it's energy, it's motivation, it's creativity. It's things like me doing this now is I'm going to finish this and I'm going to be reflecting on it and trying to learn. And it's going to really be kind of a bit of a challenge for me to unwind, right? For me to transition from work to home. But we'll help you understand that. So absolutely, I totally understand kind of feeling overwhelmed at the moment and so forth. So what we're talking about here, guys, is we are talking about stress, right? And this is principle number one when it comes to understanding well-being. If we want to understand well-being, we have to, first of all, deal with this microphone, because, you know, this is the production that's going on, right? So the thing that we have to think about is stress. And we almost have to reframe stress, because what is stress to you? Throw me some words in the comments. Let me know. What is it? If I say the word stress to you, what comes to mind? Is it the things that you've just said? Is there anything else that you're thinking about when I say the word stress to you? What lens do you look at stress through? So throw me some words in there. And overwhelmed, absolutely. What else we got? Running out of time, feeling overwhelmed. So we had two overwhelmed in a row. Spaghetti head. I like that, Rebecca. Anxiety, how I feel physically, tight chest. Perceived expectations, panic, weight on my shoulders. Out of control, brain fog. Brain fog? Brain fog. Brain fog, absolutely. Panic and tearful. So, God, no wonder stress has got a really bad rep, right? Like, it's really no wonder we're kind of looking at the press, and we need to avoid stress. We need less stress in our lives. Stress has got a bad reputation, and our misinterpretation, I'm not saying that what you guys aren't saying is a very real feeling and insight, but essentially what we need to do if we want to start understanding how to manage our energy is really look at stress from a black and white point of view, right? And what we need to kind of separate is kind of the stimulus, the things that cause us stress, with the actual feeling of stress. And a couple of you guys have just mentioned that, right? Helena has mentioned panic and sweating, fast heart rate from Liz. So it's really important to understand that there's going to be stimuluses in our life, right? There are things out there that are constantly threatening our value and well-being system, right? And when something threatens our values or well-being, remember, well-being is our mental, physical, social, environmental health. When something threatens our well-being, our system goes into this back catalogue of experiences. It taps into kind of all these lessons from evolution hidden away in our genes. And it says, hey, this thing in front of you right now is a threat to our very well-being, our very, very existence. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you some resources to be able to deal with this stress. I'm going to give you the energy and focus to tackle whatever's in front of you. Your heart is going to pump fast so we can get blood to your brain, right? Your vision is going to narrow so you can stay focused on the challenge in front of you. I'm going to release a selection of hormones that are going to give you the superpowers that you need, the energy that you need, the focus that you need to be able to tackle the challenge in front of you. And I'm also going to help your respiratory rate is going to change, because the reason your respiratory rate is changing, the reason your breathing is changing, is because I'm converting that energy. I'm creating that energy so you have the resources to tackle this challenge in front of you. And let's look at this from a micro point of view, right? Like right now, coming into this room, this is a stress. From a physiological point of view, this is a stress. My heart is pumping faster. My field of view is narrow. My breathing is changing. I'm talking a lot out of my mouth. That's making me more anaerobic than aerobic. I'm using an energy system that comes at a slightly higher cost energy-wise. So my body is actually tapping into my stress response based on this stimulus to be able to give me the tools that I need to tackle this challenge. And that's the first thing that we need to look at, is we have to start thinking about stress as actually something that's quite good for us, something that can help us deal with the problems that lay in front of us. The fact that we need stress in our lives to be able to adapt and grow stronger. And the good example of this is that when we go into the gym, we tear the muscles, we stress the system. And the reason we do that is we get stronger once we've done it. And then it's also important to realize that the reason you might be a good project manager or a good creative or a good account manager or good in client services or good in your face-to-face role and whatever it may be, or just good at whatever you've done, is because of the stresses and challenges you've had to deal with historically in your past. And usually now, if we were coaching, I would do a bit of an intervention and say, let's look at what those are. Let's look at things you've grown from historically that at the time were a major stress. So it's really important to reflect on this, that, hey, stress isn't going anywhere. We can't avoid stress. We can't control what's going on out there at the moment. But what we can start to think about is our framing of the stress in front of us, or the stimulus in front of us, and start to think about that, hey, instead of me thinking like, why am I so anxious walking into this room? Why is my heart rate going? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I think, hey, actually, do you know what? I need to get rid of that human being bit of me, that frontal cortex bit of me, which is trying to make my own narrative and conversation about what's going on. I just need to listen to my body and go, hey, body, like, I really appreciate the fact that actually you are trying to shift into a second and first gear right now. And you're trying to give me the resources to tackle this challenge in front of you. So we need to understand that stress is not going anywhere, but obviously we need to think about stress in dosage, right? So what I'm going to go through here is, I've got to recap again, guys. I'm learning about like this flow of this deck at the moment, so you must forgive me. I'm going to kind of maybe get a bit jumbled. But first of all, our recap of stress is stresses cannot be avoided. Stress is going to be in our life. We are going to have the Northern Line that gets delayed. We're going to have to stand in queue at Sainsbury's to get our food now, or in line at the coffee to be able to get our food. And sometimes, we're standing in line and the barista's new and we're getting stressed because we need to be somewhere. How grateful are you now just to get a coffee, eh? We are going to have the challenges of family members letting us down. We're going to have the colleague who sends us an email that we just don't want to get. We're going to have someone cancel a meeting or call another meeting. Like, stresses can't be avoided. They are part of life. And that is why we've adapted and changed as human beings. And that's why we're here now. It's fundamental for adaptation. We need stress to grow stronger. And stress is our body's way of giving us energy and focus. Look at our man Usain Bolt there right now, right? And look at him. He is not calm. He has got a challenge in front of him. Look, his mouth's open. His focus is pinpoint. He is ready to tackle that challenge. Did he let the nerves get hold of him and think he doesn't deserve to be there? Or did he think like, hey, this anxiety is really, it was all there? Or did he think, hey, maybe actually, do you know what? I've got the energy and focus that I need to be able to go out there and do what I need to do right now. And the thing is that we have to think about stress in dosage though, right? Like obviously too much stress isn't a good thing. And that's where we can start to lead to chronic stress issues. And we're going to talk about how to manage stress a little bit more as we move forward. We've also got to remember that stress should be a struggle. So if we need it in dosage, when do we know if too much stress is too much, right? And this is a whole other conversation. I don't want to get too lost in it today, but it's really important to understand that we need struggle and frustration as primers for growth and learning. If you're frustrated at work, if you're struggling at work, if you're on a project and you're struggling, or hey, some of you are struggling to transition from work to home at the moment, and you're being frustrated by that, not being able to switch off. Well, that frustration and that struggle has led you to logging on here and being part of this conversation. You've needed that struggle and frustration to grow and adapt. And we know this from the brain's point of view, that's where plasticity and change starts to occur. We need struggle and frustration to be able to learn as human beings. These are primers for growth and learning. So that's stress, guys. So can I get an emoji? If that was a good, is that all making sense? Have we got any questions if you want to throw me about stress before we move on? And obviously, we're going to get you this deck and so forth as we move forward. Margarita, emoji game, strong, like it, makes sense, good. We got all good here, fantastic. So, amazing. So that's principle number one is starting to think about how we can reframe stress. Principle number two is we have to understand the role of rest within this, right? We have to start to understand that if stress is the investment, then rest is the return on investment. We don't actually get stronger in the gym. We get stronger when we've created the optimal environment outside of the gym. That's when the body starts to heal and develop. We don't get stronger during the day and the challenges of the day. We get strong when we've moved into fifth gear, which is sleep at night. That's where we start to categorize learnings. Stuff starts to get put away. Our body starts to reset, right? We also have to understand that when we move into a state of rest, when we move away from stress, we also start to access creative, cognitive, clear decision-making skill menus, right? When we're stressed and we're focused on a problem, we're not necessarily making the best decisions. We're making the quickest decisions depending on the scenario and the environment, the problem that we've got in front of us, right? Yeah, you guys know this, right? Have you ever made any really, you're making the best decision you can when you stress, but would you say on reflection, once you've shifted away from stress into kind of more of a rested state, you then reflect and you can see the bigger picture and you go, actually, maybe I could have handled that differently. So we've got to understand it from a physiological point of view. When we start to push back on our stress response, when we start to add relief to the struggle of stress, that's when we start to make adaptations. That's when we start to have much more access to clearer thinking. And you all know this, right? You've all been for a walk down the beach and found a solution for a life problem. That's not some wishy-washy psychological feeling. That's your body responding to task and environment, which is shifting your physiology and giving you access to psychology. We've also got to understand that rest isn't just for rest day, right? Relief should happen throughout the day. And this is one of the big challenges that we have is we get up, we get stuck in first gear and we stay in first gear until we try and force fifth gear to happen and go to bed. And what we're going to help you understand today when it comes to switching off is how to kind of manage that relationship in real time throughout the day between stress and rest to be able to kind of make all these micro adaptations that compound over time. And rest is not an on or off thing. You don't just go from stress to rest. It's not on or off. It's a dial. You have different gears, right? You've got your first gear, fully angry, full tilt. You've got fifth gear sleeping. We've got this second, we've got this third, we've got these fourth gears. So rest is not just an on or off thing. There are different degrees of being able to influence your rest, your recovery response. So, as mentioned, if stress is an investment, rest is the ROI, right? And that's from some great guys over at Power Speed Endurance. Rest is where we assimilate learnings from struggle and frustration. You don't get stronger, or the learnings don't come when you're struggling. The learnings don't come when you're frustrated. The learnings come after that, when you've created the right environment to reflect, okay? Right now, you guys, if you're focused on me, are in a more state of stress, right? Like you're thinking, you're focused, you're channeled in on this and you're hearing what I've got to say, hopefully. You aren't going to learn here. You're going to learn once you reflect on this conversation and you start to then be able to assimilate it into your life. When with relief comes creativity, strategic thinking, and optimal decision making. It's not that you can't make good decisions when you're stressed. It's just you're making the best decision you can at the time. Rest is not just for rest day. Relief should be throughout the day. Rest is not an on or off thing. We have different gears. So that's principle number 2. Principle number 3 is we have to understand energy. Okay. And I'm not talking about the woo-woo, hippy-dippy energy, people. Okay. I'm talking about the fact that 20% of your calories consumed go to your brain. Mind blown. Mind blown. Come on, send me a mind blown emoji if you can find it. Did you know, I'll blow your mind, right? Here we go. Did you know that grand chess masters burn up to 6,000 calories while playing in a tournament? Oh, yeah, really? 6,000 calories, up to 6,000 calories. Bit of research at Stanford University. I'll find the research for you, dig it out. We'll put it up in the follow-up email. Right? But they just sit there. Interesting that. Energy is not just for physical exercise. Okay? Hold on. There we go. I need to put that on there. Energy is not just for physical exercise. Energy is critical for thinking, managing emotions, self-control, and willpower. Energy control underpins habit formation and behavior. We need energy to think. We need energy to be able to show up for loved ones at the end of a hard day. You've already explained the benefits of energy in your life. Energy dictates self-control and willpower, right? We all want a little bit more self-control and willpower, but if we've not got the energy, then the muscle starts to deplete in our mind, and then our body just goes to the kind of easy habits that it understands and knows to get the tasks done. It falls back into that well-oiled groove. So if we want to create new habits and behaviors, if we want to keep our emotions in check, because remember that self-control muscle is not just about having self-control, not to pick up the piece of cake. That self-control muscle is also there to not scream at your boss when you want to. That self-control muscle is to wear that happy mask where inside you're feeling really sad. And we deplete that muscle throughout the day. And it's all correlated to your energy expenditure. The reason that you think you're going to eat healthy at the beginning of the day, and then you can't make up your mind at the end of the day when you're standing in Tesco's, is partly because you've used up all your willpower and self-control. You've depleted it throughout the day, keeping your shit together. And then you're standing there in the aisle and you've got decision fatigue, energy related. People telling you right now to do all this productivity, start new habits, start new routines, exercise. If that's all very unnatural to you, you're going to have to spend energy to create the self-control and willpower to create those habits, but you're also using that self-control and willpower to manage a fucking crisis at the moment. So be kind to yourself. Physiology is psychology. It's not tea, it's dinner. I know that. Don't judge me. Getting bullied online, right? Right, energy. So we've got energy. So let's quick recap of energy. Don't know what I'm doing. There we go. 20% of the calories consumed go to your brain. Energy is not just for physical exercise. Energy is critical. We're going to start getting to the real takeaways now, guys. We'll start working through. Energy is critical for thinking, learning, managing emotions, control, and willpower. Energy control underpins habit formation and behavior. Stress is energy. Energy is stress. When you are stressed, your body is converting energy to be able to deal with the challenge and task in front of you. Yes, please. I welcome that energy. I want that energy. Thank you very much. Life right there, right now is hard. A lot of us need the energy to keep our shit together. Our body is producing that for us. But hey, don't beat yourself up when you haven't got any left in the tank to go and create all these new habits that everyone's telling you to do. Be kind. But you know what the good thing is? You can adapt because you're humans. Right. So energy, pow, loving my work. That's bad. Who's the only person loving my work? That's awful. Oh, I love my work. It's my side cheerleader. Right. So how do we influence energy? Do you want to know? Do you want to know how to influence energy? Do you want to know how to have a little bit more energy in the tank for the end of the day and be able to work on your energy and control throughout the day? Well, funny you don't ask that question. Yeah, go on, Celeste. Funny you mention that, because what we're going to talk about right now, we're going to talk about the energy cycle. I did this, by the way, people. So you better like this. It took me about 4 hours to do this. I'm pretty sure it could take a graphic designer about a minute, but you know, figured it out here, hustling. So that's the energy cycle. And that's what we're going to help you guys understand a little bit more about today. And what we need to think about the energy cycle is everything that causes us stress, everything that we need energy for is kind of like its own mini energy cycle, right? That could be a day. Let's think about that from a day's perspective, right? You start the day, you work your way around, and then the closing of the energy cycle is what? Sleep, okay? Your day is a stress. Your day is going to need energy from you to be able to get through it. And within your day, there are tiny little energy cycles, right? And, oh, no, there we go. Hold on. So you've got tiny little energy cycles throughout the day. What do you think those energy cycles, those stress cycles are? Throw it at me. What are things that consume energy from you? What are things that cause you stress? Hit me up in the comments. Checking time just to make sure I'm en route. Problems at work? Absolutely. Difficult conversations with clients? Yes. Work? Yes. Managing anxieties? Absolutely. Okay. University work, so sitting down, focusing on work, managing family and work and childcare juggle, problems. Cool. Absolutely. Right. Unnecessary meetings. Amen, Armadeep. Amen. Global pandemic, right? But absolutely, global pandemic on a grand scale is you're in an energy cycle right now, right? Energy cycles can be micro, macro. You can talk about energy cycles in real time. What I'm doing now, this 60 minutes, is an energy cycle, right? Is a stress cycle. My body is converting energy. It's shifting into a second gear to be able to deliver on this. Generally, though, these 3 weeks have been an energy cycle, right? A stress cycle. Okay. Meetings, absolutely. When we're focused in meetings, an energy cycle. And this is the thing. We've got to think about, you know, what are things that open the energy cycle? And then we want to help you guys understand how to close the energy cycle. Okay. So we're going to move through this a little bit quicker because I want to do this, but here we go. And again, this is all very subjective, guys. And this is all actually my own personal kind of thoughts on stuff, right? So what are things that can open the energy cycle? Well, and what I've tried to do is keep things very micro, and I've not tried to get too subjective about, you know, the current climate or, you know, projects of work or I don't know, whatever it may be, challenging times in our life. But ultimately, you know, let's look at this. Emails, absolutely, right? You're focused on emails, you're getting pissed off, you're triggering, whatever it may be. The news. We absolutely know that watching the news right now is not necessarily the most relaxing thing on the planet. This presentation for both of us is costing us energy to focus on this narrative. Client calls, meetings, the day in itself, being focused, being motivated costs energy. Food can be a stressor, right? Deep work, a deep practice can consume energy and is a stressor. Okay. Got a question. What is a 20S hug? 20-second hug. So it's interesting. I have to go back and do these slides slightly differently. So the important start, when we start looking at, right, so we understand that going back to the thing, right, the principles of well-being, which is energy is stress, things that open up and can cause a stress are these items on the left, right? And what I want you guys to do, and I'll send in the workbook, is you can start to fill this out yourself when you come back to this if you choose to down the line. But it's important to understand that, okay, so we understand how to open the energy cycle, but how do we close it? So the great ways that we can close our energy cycles is nature. Nature shifts our physiology. Even just sitting by a tree can tip us from a fight, flight, freeze response into a place of rest and recovery. So it can start to tip us back through the gears. Reading is one of the most best ways that we can relax and calm down. It's a great way of capturing the mind for people who've got anxiety and so forth as well, because it's just a distraction, right? But also at the same time, it can be hard to focus. But if you start to manage your energy on a much more micro throughout the day, you'll start to get that focus back. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Humor is a very, very powerful tool, right? That's why if you look at special forces, people on the front lines, if you look at nurses at the moment, they'll all be leading with humor. Humor shifts our state. So that's why me and my wife at the moment, to close down the energy cycles of the day, the stress cycles of the day, we're watching the US version of The Office, and we watch 2 episodes every night. Humor is a fantastic tool. Walking, my Lord, and we're going to talk about walking. Crying, a great release. Don't be afraid of it. Your body needs to do it. 20 seconds of hugging a human being changes their internal physiology. Just having a hug, but don't try it with your colleagues. Gratitude, reframing, hobbies, journaling, solitude, time on yourself, learning to relax, learning to calm the system down. And obviously sleep is a great way of closing the stress cycle, the energy cycle. Now, there is middle grounds on this, right, guys? Like we've got to understand that exercise is a fantastic way of us closing down the energy cycle of the day and helping us vent and relax. And it's a very good thing for us. But we've got to remember within its own self, right? Stress is a mini energy cycle. So if you are training, if you are stretching for me actually is a major stressor for me, right? I took a load of drugs in my 20s. I sat at a desk for well over 15 years. My body does not like trying to touch my toes. There's nothing calming about a nice little stretch, right? Running is great, but it's a very energy demanding task. And it's really important that we understand that if we're going to open the energy cycle of running or training or going to the gym, we can't skip the cool down. And that's where just slowing the system down, going for a walk at the end of the run, and looking at these mini energy cycles and how you can close them down. Talking is a great way, right? Human connection, our physiology matches the person in front of us. Our heart rate changes. Like sharing is the number one golden thing that we can do to improve our mental, physical health, right? It's a great, great tool. But as you guys have kind of explained, that actually it can also take energy to talk, right? And it's really important that if it can be a great de-stressor, but also at the same time, it can consume energy. So if you are having big conversations and they end up getting a little bit deeper, then you have to close that down as its own mini energy cycle. It might help on the macro having that conversation, i.e. you've got to have a tough conversation with a loved one and you know it's going to be hard to have it. But by having that stressful conversation, it will make the bigger energy cycle of the month or week or year or lifetime a lot easier. So you've got to kind of break it into the micro and macro. I hope that helps, guys. Socializing is a great thing. We need to connect with other human beings, but also, sometimes it can be hard to wear the mask, to walk into the room and to connect with people. So again, it can be good for us, but also being introverted can be great for us as well. And some days, actually, I haven't got the energy to give, and that's absolutely fine. And it's not that you necessarily got the energy to give, you just realize that it's just going to take, well, it is, you just realize it's going to take more energy from you. So again, socializing is fantastic. It's brilliant, but it can demand energy from us. But on the bigger picture, if we can turn up to 3 out of 5 socializing events, then that's a really good thing to do, because that's going to help with the larger stress cycle of life. Social media is a great way of connecting with people, but we also know that it can be a great trigger for us. So we have to be cautious of it. TV as well. Like, I can actually feel really lethargic when I've been focusing on a TV for so long. And you've got to remember that there's 2 ways that we can influence our nervous system. We can influence our fight, flight, or freeze response, and that's through breath and vision. So when we are focused on something, we're tipping the dial more towards spending more energy, being more stressed, more fight, flight, or freeze. But when we're in our wider view, our panoramic vision, using the outer edges of our eyes, we're more rest and recovery. So it's really important to understand that staring at a screen all day, even if it's helping us distract us and numb us, your body is still kind of like, oh, I'm starting to work a little bit here. I'm still making complex calculations. So it's kind of, you got to think about these things. And obviously breath. Breath is one of the greatest ways that we can influence the stress cycle. But actually, I can actually hyperventilate like I am now on purpose. And that can actually be a stressor, right? So it's really important to understand that breath isn't just about calming yourself down. When people are doing like Wim Hof stuff or quick breathing stuff, like actually, that can have different knock-on effects for people. So guys, does that make sense? I figure I'm rambling a little bit here, but such important stuff. Is that all kind of good with you guys? Let me know you're still there. Yeah, yeah. Good, right. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. So We are, I know we said about 45 minutes, but we are going to probably go to about 55 minutes to an hour today. Just my timings are a little bit off. This will be recorded. I will be able to send this recording out to you. So you have got to jump off, then you will get a copy of this. And I fully understand, because I appreciate people's times and I value people's times. There's only a few more. I really like to think everything's getting super actionable as hell as we move forward. So quick closes, right? What are quick things that you can do to close the energy cycle? Let's say you've been in a meeting for 45 minutes. What can you do? 10 breaths up to 10 minutes, nasal only, nice and calm, nice and relaxed while going for a walk. 5 to 15 minutes walking, just walk outside the house, go for a walk around the block. That helps shift and close down the energy cycle. A reframing exercise. Think about, what did I learn from that challenge that I've just been through? What would have I done better? What was the lesson I will take away from it? So just helping yourself reframe. And when it feels like less of a stress because you feel more in control, then that can help. A quick chat, sharing how you feel with someone. Make sure sometimes that you're sharing with people that, hey, you don't need to feel, I don't need anything back from you. I just need to vent. I just need to scream. Like, it's absolutely fine. Think post-traumatic stress versus post-traumatic growth though, right? Don't bitch, don't moan for too long. Think about what you've learned and what you can take away from any scenario, any situation to help you reframe the psychology of anything that's causing you stress. Right, okay, so I'm gonna plow through. So, recap, cycles vary in length from a single instance. So energy cycles can be a day, a week, a month, or a year, right? But spend too long stressed, it's going to end up chronic stress. There's only so long you can stay in first gear for, okay? And that's really important, that you have to think about this. This is where we work from 9 to 5. We get stuck in first gear. We then end up spending the evening just kind of running around and never closing the energy cycle. And it comes at a cost. Cycles can be deceptive. The good and the bad both cost energy, right? The gym is great, but sometimes if you haven't got the energy to give, realize that it is a stressor, okay? The more focused your vision and attention is, the more energy you are spending. So right now I am focused and my attention is on this and I'm really in it. That's spending a lot of energy, right? And that could be in anything in your life. If you feel like it's a problem that's been pinging around in your head for a long time, for weeks and months, you need to deal with it, because actually you're spending a lot of energy. Kind of ignore those thoughts, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Nasal breathing is less energy demanding. Keep your mouth shut, breathe through your nose. It costs less energy. You're more aerobic. Simple as that. Close the cycle equals money back, right? Remember, energy is good. It's all about return on health. Okay, so next up, that's the principles of well-being, which took me 40 minutes. I hope that helps a little bit. Even if you take some of that away, it's really, really hopefully should help you, especially the energy cycle. Okay. And I really recommend, potentially at this stage, stick with me. Please do stay here. But, don't be afraid. There's only so much energy that you have to soak all this up at the end of a hard day. So always come back and reflect. And that's why we're going to send this video out to you guys and make sure you've got it to review. But this will be the point that I kind of start from and review again. So, really important to think about environmental health, right? The environments we place ourselves in influence behaviors, thoughts, feelings, and emotion. The non-conscious mind is constantly speaking and being directed by everything we engage in. Environment cues behavior, okay? And it's really important to understand this, guys. Think about when you walk into a church. What happens? You start whispering. Why? Because the environment cues behavior. And that's one of the big problems that we've got at the moment, is people are feeling challenged by the fact that their systems are confused by the environments that they're placing themselves in. Does that make sense, guys? What are the 3 environments do you think we mainly occupy? I'm just interested to see if you kind of get what I'm saying here. So what are the 3 environments that we the 3 major environments that we occupy on a daily basis? Anything that's coming to your mind when I say that? Home, absolutely. Office, absolutely. Home, work, and wider world, absolutely. Work, home, outside. Brilliant. Supermarket, yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really interesting. So, and actually, I suppose the outside world is something that I should have probably thought about. So again, I'm thinking of different ways of educating this, guys. And this is the first time I've ever talked about through stuff like this, right? So the 3 things is, and it's really important, right? It's a good example of how our body's constantly responding to environment, and outside is a great one to think about that, because actually, did you ever stepped out in front of a car and taken a step back without ever realizing it? That is your body kind of constantly reading the environment and keeping you safe, right? It's looking for those stimuluses. It's looking for the things that are a threat to you, right? So what we're going to do is I've broken it down into 3 sections: work, home, and digital. Okay. And what we want to think about is, what are the behaviors that we want each environment to cue? Okay. If we understand that an environment cues a particular behavior, what behaviors do we want those environments to cue? Okay, so let's think about this from a work perspective, right? Everyone says it's so great to work from home, like absolutely, but do you know what? Me going to work and walking into that environment cues the behavior that I want to get focused at work, right? And we can think about that. What do we want? When we go to work, we want to be focused. We want high energy. We want driven. We want high productive. We want to be focused. We want purpose. We want to have resilience. We want to be switched on. We want a performance mindset. Now, unfortunately, for some of us, work it can cue negative behaviors. It can make us anxious. It can make us feel unsafe. It can make us feel vulnerable. It can make us feel annoyed. It can feel angry, right? You build that relationship with the environment. So again, the problem that we've got at the moment, guys, is your working environment is not cueing the behavior that you need to get your work done, right? And there's this blurred lines. And that's what we're seeing is, what we want from our home, right? We want to be relaxed. We want calm. We want safety. We want to be present. We want to switch off. We want connection. We want product. We want to be productive, but without effort, right? We don't want to be highly productive, but we do want to be productive, but more of an autonomous and automatic production. So productivity, you know what I'm trying to say? So it's really important to think about this. And that's the problem. There's, again, these blurred lines that we've got going on at the moment. So your system is just confused. So it's like, no wonder you can't switch off, right? Because one minute your environment is dictating that it needs high energy, it needs you to be driven, it needs you productive, it needs you thinking. And then it's trying to say, hey, you need you to be relaxed, I need you to be calm. But it's like, hold on a sec, I'm fucking confused, okay? Productive without effort. You're welcome, Leanne. And then what's the third one? We have hold on. We have our digital environments, right? We occupy these environments all the time. And I think it's really important that we look at our digital environments. Really, what do we want them to do? And again, these are my wants, guys. This is me, right? I want to feel connected. I want to be productive. I want to feel in control. I want it as an entertainment source on occasion. And actually, yeah, I do want it to help me switch off now and then. It's a great distraction now and then, right? But in dosage. But, what behaviors do we think our digital environments are actually cueing, right? Anxiety, being connected all the time, overwhelmed. So it's really important that, first of all, you define what you want your environment, the behavior that you want your environment to cue. Okay? Because once you've defined the purpose of the environment and how it will help you, you are more driven to protect that environment. Everyone's telling you to set up an office space and a desk in a corner, but has anyone explained why? So hopefully by you giving it a purpose and understanding the behaviors that you want and giving it and how it lends it to your philosophy and your value system as a human being and what you want out of life, there's more purpose in creating that environment. There's more purpose in protecting that environment. So I'm going to skip forward that one because I can't do over to you. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to move through. But I think the digital one was really important. It's really important to reflect on this. I'm going to talk a little bit more how we can manage our digital environment. But when I've done this before, and we talk about how to cue the behaviors that our digital environment is creating for us, it can make us feel overwhelmed. It can make us feel anxious. It can make us feel like we're always on, feeling wired. It makes us feel sad. It makes us feel like we have a lack of control. I'm not putting words in your mouth here, guys. So it's just, this is the kind of the answers I've had before. And I just wanted to throw this out there because it's really important, again, that in equal measure to our working environment and our home environment, our digital environment is cueing emotions and behaviors and influencing that. So it's super, super important to say that out loud. Okay. So, hold on. Okay. So, bosh, here we go. So these are super, super simple. Basically, what can we do, right? How can we start to influence our how can we start to influence our environment to cue behaviors, right? And you've got to think sights, sounds, and smells. Okay, and these are very simple stuff, guys. There's a lot more layers to this, but I'm trying to get stuff as quickly as possible. And once you get this deck and this stuff, these are some clear actionables that you can tick off. But lighting is really in key, right? So within your work environment, having bright lighting and thinking about how that lighting changes throughout the day. It sends signals, it sends cues, right? Remember, we're all about circadian rhythm. Our bodies know what to do when the sun's setting, when the sun rises. So again, it's a great input. And remember, your visual system is so key to managing your state and your emotions. Wear work clothes. Get up and wear work clothes. Have one work location and have a work playlist from sound perspective. So we're all different and we all respond to different things, but how can you send the cues? How can you think sight, sounds, and smells? When you get home in the evening, softer lighting, warm tones. Think about wearing evening clothes, get changed. Have a playlist, softer music in the evening, smells, scented candles, and have a reading chair, right? Have a chair or an area that the only thing that you do in that space is pick up a damn book or just sit there and think, okay? Start to help you. I have a reading chair and my ass knows that when I sit in that chair, I read. I don't do anything else in that chair except sit and read, because over time, by sitting in it, I'm sending a signal to my body to cue the behavior that I want. Okay. From a digital perspective, a guest user account for work. So actually have a different user account and change your background and change the tones. Like when I get up in the morning and I put on my laptop and I've set up my day, my computer, I have a different account that I go into. It's gray, it's got no wallpapers, and it only has Word in there and a couple other bits and pieces. So that digital environment cues the behavior of me writing and being creative. No emails or phone. Again, what do you want from your thing? If you've got emails on your laptop, why do you need emails on your phone? You can use things like the Freedom app or Self-Control app to lock you out of being able to access these things on your PC and on your email. Don't trust your behavior when you can least be trusted, if that makes sense. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Make phone black and gray in the evening. So again, you're just changing your relationship, changing the physical environment that you're looking at. Only check social in a certain space at a time. So when I check social media in my house, I usually just sit in two different places. I don't check social media in my office because office is for work. I get distracted. Yes, you can, Rebecca. So no, you can't. Unless you've got Android. I'll answer that question again. So it's really important. So I only have a certain area. So when I sit on a step or I sit in this place, my body knows, hey, now's the time for you to check social media. I don't check social media in my office. So I do it very rarely unless I'm filming and stuff like that. But I very scroll in here because this environment cues deep focus. Okay. So God, I'm gonna running a bit behind here, guys, but again, feel free to pick this up again at a later date. And I'm not going to rush actually, because I want to be able to do this as cleanly as possible. So if you've got to go at 8, go at 8. But again, I will send this all over to you so you can watch the end of it. I don't know why I'm rushing, because I've got the energy to be able to deliver this properly. So I'm going to slow down and it'll probably go on just past 8. But please do head off if you need to head off. So the recap for environmental health is think, sights, sounds, and smells. Okay. Remember that these are all cues to trigger the behaviors that you want. Environments cue behaviors and feelings. Okay. Define the purpose of the environment based on desired behavior and your values, right? And this is really important because you all know that you should be doing these things, right? You all know that you should be not checking social so much, that you should be exercising, that you should have a gratitude journal, like whatever it is. You know that you should be doing all this stuff. And sometimes it's the best way that we can motivate ourselves is not actually kind of deal with the I know I should be. It's actually starting to focus on how does this lend itself to who you want to be, right? Because remember, every habit that you create, every behavior that you demonstrate is a step towards the person that you want to be. So you can think about that in the sense that, well, what does future me look like? What is future me values? What does my life look like? And then when you're sitting there thinking about whether you should do something, whether you should create this workspace or whether you should download this app to lock yourself out, ask yourself, how does the behavior that I'm demonstrating right now lend itself to who I want to be in the future? And if that's really hard, think about someone that you look up to that's really productive. Or let's say you're a runner, right? Let's say you're a runner and you love to run and you know you should be doing more stretching, more mobility work, or you should be actually focusing on your cool down, or you shouldn't be running when you're injured on your knee or whatever it may be, right? And you kind of know all this, but it's hard to make yourself do it. So think about what the greatest runner looks like to you. What are the behaviors that they demonstrate? Who are they? And build that picture in your mind. And then every time you're sitting there wondering what you should do, ask what that runner would do. Ask what future you would do. By connecting to that, it starts to really drive the values that you want moving forward and who you want to be. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Really, really, really great one. So the next one from there is how to create bright lines. So create bright lines, or thank you very much, Leanne. Might drop moment. I'll give it a go. How to create bright lines, not blurred, as you can't be trusted. So this is really important that when we talk, especially I think let's use digital behavior as an example. That I'm an ex-drug addict. The grooves in my head are well oiled for this dopamine hit, right? As soon as I start slipping and sliding on social medias and Instagrams and Facebooks, like I just fall down the rabbit hole. And remember, energy dictates my self-control and willpower, and this depletes throughout the day as I use it. So in the evening, you're just done. And that's why it can be so hard to demonstrate self-control and willpower at the end of the day, because that muscle's depleted. And FYI, the reason that you might reach for alcohol and sugar is because the fastest acting fuel source for your brain is glucose. Coming with a science bombs. Okay. So it's really important to think about that. Like, how can you put things in place that look after you when you can't be trusted? So for me, for example, I delete the apps every day. I have a certain time when I check stuff and I look at stuff, and then I then put passwords for applications on post-it notes that are at the bottom of my house, and my phone is at my top of my house. And there's just a real load of friction between me and having to download social media. And I need to do that, because if it's just by my hand, I'm just going to start scrolling. If I delete the app, I'm just going to download it again, because it just takes 2 seconds. And also, bright lines is sometimes for some of us having hard line statements like, I will not eat past 8 o'clock. Like, there's no wishy-washy, right? Whatever it may be. Sometimes we just need hard and fast rules. I do not check email past 7 o'clock, or once I've had dinner, I do not look at my phone, like whatever it may be. Okay. So bright lines, not blurred. Okay. So again, it is nearly 8 o'clock, guys. So if you just need to head off and have some dinner, if you're getting tired, go away. This will all be sent out to you, and you've got it for you. Because actually, we've got some really bit by bit stuff to do right now, and there's definitely some lot more to digest. My timings were way off. I wanted to help. I wanted to give as much. I just wanted to. This is the stuff, like black and white, as much as possible. Okay, so we're going to talk about switching gears. So now we've defined the role of the environments we place ourselves in. How do we transition between environments, right? And that's the key thing. Like, we don't just go from first to fifth, right? How do we go from first, second, third, fourth into fifth? Okay, see you later, doula. And how do we go from first, fourth, third, second into first, right? Like, one of the biggest challenges we have as human beings is our inability to transition between environments. And the better we get at transitioning between environments, the better we get at managing our energy, and the better we become at starting to switch off, right? So, and like I said, it's not just a case of going from stress to rest when closing the energy cycles. We've got to be able to come down through the gears. So what we're going to talk about now is how to transition, right? How to slowly start to come down from the day, or slowly start to build up your day so you're much more energy efficient. And remember, this is about making all these micro changes where possible throughout the day. Finding your 1% here, finding your 1% there. So that compounds over a day. So you've just got that little bit more energy in the tank for whatever it is that you want to do in the evening. So first of all, we're going to look at AM, right? Excuse me, guys. A great way to start to transition from fifth gear into fourth into third, and not just kind of like rush out the house. And, remember, we get a spike of, some of us have a bit of a stress response in the morning. We get a little bit more cortisol. And that can really dictate our day, right? How many of you have woken up in the morning and you've got your phone there and you've checked your emails and so forth, and then it just suddenly starts to spike you, and that starts to put you and gets you stuck into a first gear straight out the bat, right? So rule number 1 for the AM is no screen light before sunlight. Sunlight helps set up circadian rhythm for the day. It helps set up our stress response for the day. It helps us manage our energy for the day. It just tells our system, like, hey, time to wake up. It's the cheer. It's 8 o'clock. I'm like, what's that noise? Oh my God, how bad am I? I'm like, go to your windows, people, and cheer. I'm like, what's that noise going on? What is that? So I feel bad now. I should be out the window. I'm out here helping people to manage their morning. No screen light before that. So no screen light before sunlight, right? Really, really important. If your phone is by your bed and it's your alarm, then dudes, order a new one. Order an alarm clock, get that phone out of your bedroom, okay? Before 8 a.m. As best as possible. If you're sitting by a window, it's absolutely fine. Get about 10 to 15 minutes of screen light. Follow at Huberman Lab. This will be in the follow-up notes. Huberman's absolutely fantastic. He is a neuroscientist at Stanford University. I talked a lot about this. Don't worry, Rebecca, go and have dinner. This is all going to be here. This is why I'm recording it. So no screen light before sunlight, very, very key to helping manage your stress throughout the day. Stack one desired habit on one existing habit. So it is definitely, we all want to create these perfect habits in the morning, right? These perfect routines. There is no perfect routine. There is our own individual routines. And I definitely say that it's good to be able to just have something that helps you relax a little bit morning and dial into the day. So for me, it's reading. And what I mean by is stack one desired habit on one existing habit is whenever I have coffee in the morning, I read 5 pages of my book. Whenever I make coffee in the morning, the kettle's boiling, I sit in the bottom end of a squat. Okay? Whenever I have a bath, don't judge me, there's a reason I have a bath in the day, I do breath work. So I stack a habit on a current habit as opposed to just trying to create space for a new habit, if that makes sense, guys. So stack something there that you want to do that you know helps you set up the day, whether it's a bit of journaling, whether it's a bit of reading 5 pages, whether it's doing a bit of breath work or whatever it may be. The next thing is maybe the habit that you should create is 10 breaths up to 10 minutes, right? And breath is the greatest way that we can kind of keep a balance in our system. Remember, some of us, we've been up all night, we've been mouth breathing during the night. It can actually, send our system just a little bit off and we can wake up feeling really drained in the morning. So how we breathe through the night can affect our energy, and that's a whole other workshop. But basically, just taking a moment and taking 10 breaths just to help the system set itself up for the day, to create a balance between your O2 and CO2, to help your kind of just your nervous system get balanced. 10 breaths up to 10 minutes of nasal breath is really going to help you set up your energy for the day. Okay, so this is the key one, guys. And the thing that I want you to think about is actually commuting to work while working from home. I think this is where a lot of people are not realizing that commutes start to cue behavior, right? So create a mini commute, right? So what I want you to do is think about getting dressed, getting ready for work, maybe put a coffee in a travel cup or whatever it may be, and just go for a walk around the block. Start to create those steps and those processes. And when you do it without distraction. No headphones, no nothing. Just make sure that you can let the brain do what it needs to do. Remember, the brain's default mode is social cognition. Your brain needs to think about your place in the world. It needs times to process. The reason a lot of us get so challenged by meditation or doing breath work is because we ignore this inbox all day long. We stay in first gear, and then we try and put our body and system into third or fourth gear, or and sit there. We haven't let the brain focus we haven't let the brain do what it needs to do throughout the day. So the social brain is really, really important to think about. And by you going for a walk without stimulation, without headphones in, even if it's just half the walk or 5 minutes of the walk, you're going to help your brain just process all the things that it's filed away overnight. And you're going to start to hear and think about what's relevant to you throughout the day. And if things are playing on your mind, it's because they haven't been dealt with. So you need to deal with them. And remember, the first 2 hours will always be your most productive for a hell of a lot of people, right? Like, we're all different, but generally we have our most focus and self-control for the first couple of hours of the day. This is prime retail to get shit that you need to get done without distraction. So I do not check my emails until about 11, 12 o'clock in the morning. I do not check any social media or anything like that. I know what I need to do, and we're going to talk about that in PM. I get what I need to get done. I sit there, I turn on my computer, whatever it may be, and I crack on with the hard stuff straight away. So, this was a lot longer than I thought, wasn't it? So I'm going to talk you through again, guys. You got to head off if anyone's still there. But I hope you, if you're dialing in and it's a new day, then welcome back to me just now rambling through. Go on, Leanne. Appreciate you, Millie. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Okay. Hey, Claire. Claire. Rich, oh, guys, you're still there. That's really amazing. I don't know. It's just, it's that inner gremlin, right? It's that inner gremlin. Okay, so, oh, you guys are lovely. The commute one is the truth, guys. Like the commute one, and we're going to talk about the commute and the PM as well, right? Again, you're cueing the behavior that you want. Okay, so The lunchtime, how do you close down the energy cycle of the morning, right? Remember, the AM can be an energy cycle within itself. You can have all these different stress and energy cycles. So the first thing you're going to do before you go to lunch is diarize a review of the morning before your lunch break. So every day, if you go to lunch at 12 or lunch at 1, let's say you go to lunch at 1, diarize a review at 12:30. Create a checklist that you can have in front of you every day that goes through what you need to go through to review your morning. And maybe that's clear inbox. Maybe I need to check my WhatsApps, or maybe it needs like, what are things that you do every single day that need to get done that's going to help you manage just all the crap that's in the day, all the admin or whatever it may be. Like, create a checklist, because checklists take the thinking out of stuff. And if you can remove the thinking, you're saving yourself energy, right? You're not having to force yourself to think about what you need to get done. You already know the checklist that you go through. So I've got I've got, like, I got a social media checklist, like what I need to do on social media. I got a social media checklist. I got, end of day checklist, like everything that I need to do at the end of the day. Like, just when I'm tired and I'm exhausted and I have no energy to think about stuff and I can't be trusted, I have a checklist there. Sugar, hold on. Right, I have a checklist there. So create yourself a checklist. List the top 3 tasks that need to be completed in the afternoon. I'm being nice with 3. It should probably be 1. Our ability to get multiple. How many of you write to-do lists in the morning that are like 15, 20 things long and you only get 2 or 3 things done? Stop trying to think that you're missing. That is most people, right? So what are the top 3 tasks that need to be completed in the afternoon that are going to move your business forward tomorrow? What's the real shit that just needs to get done, right? Get the rest actioned into calendars, right? To-do lists or buckets. And this is really important. This is ludic loops. And this is something that is utilizing a lot of energy, guys. So when things are ticking around in our head, we consume energy to have to demonstrate self-control, willpower to not think about those things. Ignoring stuff consumes energy. How much stuff are you ignoring in your head? Everything. Right? Like, think about all the things. So you need to really get stuff out of your head, and you need to close the loop. Call it ludic loops, right? And this is, the brain needs to close loops. Like, what happens when you get out of a car halfway through a song? Your brain keeps trying to play that song over and over again because it needs to close the loop. You've got to close the loop. So you've got to make sure you get everything out of your head, get everything, those top 3 things, get everything else actioned into a calendar or to-do list, or just put it in a bucket. Have a productivity app, a to-do list that is just like, that's where I get everything out of my head, or just write things on a long list, everything that ever comes in. And that's where we've got to work on productivity systems and then how you action it from there. But trust me, the best thing that you can do for anything is get it out of your head. The next thing that you're going to do, guys, I can't, my camera's in the way of the bullet points. The next thing you're going to do is, take a while. So the next thing you're going to do is shut down the laptop, and you're going to leave your phone off and in the office, whatever your office looks like. Okay. You're then going to go for a 30 to 45 minute walk at a slow pace, and you're going to be nasal only. And you're going to do that without distraction. Remember, the social brain needs to process the day. If you find it too hard, you start off with 5 to 10 minutes and you build over time. Okay. You don't run a marathon straight away. You've got to break it down mile by mile, right? So really important to think about that. Really important to think about going for that walk and just processing the morning, processing what's happened, right? By you processing and letting the brain do what it needs to do, it's going to have less thoughts ticking around your head at the end of the day, right? Remember, this inbox compounds, and that's why it can be so hard to switch off. And you're going to do it without distraction. You're going to try and find nature if you can, even if it's just sit by a tree. Remember, nature helps you close down the stress cycles. You're then going to eat outside or at a designated lunch spot. Remember, environment cues behavior. People who eat at desks really winds me up. Shouldn't be in at your desk. It's switching off time, right? So don't eat at your desk. There you go. I've told you. Eat light food, depending how you have a response to food. Remember, food can be a stress. Food can open an energy cycle, a stress cycle, right? So maybe eat light and then, start to eat snacks later. We're all doing, I'm not the nutrition guy, but it's just some thoughts. Return to work. Write down any thoughts that you've had on your walk in a notepad or whatever it may be. And then you'll leave your phone off and action the top 3 tasks that you wrote down at the beginning of lunch. You've gone away, you've processed the morning, that's already wrapped up. You've gone away and thought about things. You've probably found some solutions to problems that you've got going on in your head or whatever it may be. And then you come back and you know what you need to get done. You don't have to put any self-control and willpower into it because you've just done it already. You've gone through a process and your checklist has helped you go through that process. So that is that. And then obviously we have got the PM. So again, guys, I suppose it is, you know what, I needed to do this because this is just the reality. It's not actually that complicated. I hope you're not finding any of this that overwhelming or complicated. It's just I'm trying to give you just actionable as takeaways and just a real step-by-step process here of what you can do. And remember, it's about picking one or two of these things out at a time and developing them slowly but surely. For your PM, it's really about diarising a review of the day at the end of the day. Remember that you've probably got no self-control and willpower towards the end of the day. You've utilised it all up. You're drained. You're knackered. So create that checklist that helps you understand what you need to get done when you can't be trusted to think about things. Get up and move for 10 minutes. Get up and move for 10 minutes before your review, right? Movement shifts our state. Movement helps close the cycle. You don't want to go into your review kind of where you've just been focusing on your screen for 3 or 4 hours and then you're in your review. You're going to need some kind of access, some kind of cognitive thinking to be able to do that review wisely as best as possible when you're tired. So just getting up and moving helps that. Go sit on a doorstep, have a cup. So what I do is I have a queue of behavior, right? So my behavior, I stack behaviors. So I go and make a hot chocolate. I have the hot chocolate. I look out the window. And then I bring the rest of the hot chocolate up to the stairs and then do my review. So it's kind of like I have this dopamine reward, this connection, right? Something I love, something that's positive, and I connect it with something I don't really want to do. And I'm just kind of building that positive relationship with the behavior. Identify the top 2 actions for tomorrow and plan the most energy demanding tasks for your first 2 hours. Remember what I said, right? You have the most resources you have at the beginning of the day. So get the hard shit done out of the wet day. We spend so much time wasted scrolling through social medias in the morning, having to keep our shit together, spending energy on other people, on their bullshit lives. No, if I'm playing, you know what I'm trying to say, right? But we spend so much energy there with emails and inboxes and stuff like that. Like the better you get at your reviews and closing your down day, there's nothing you really need to check on your email in the morning potentially, right? Everyone's work is different, but it's just remembering your focus and energy is going to be at its peak for potentially the first couple of hours of the day. We are all different. I get another spurt later on in the day, but it is really important to think about how you can protect those first 2 hours of the day. Before you leave, clean your work and digital environments ready for tomorrow and the behaviors you want to cue. So if you've set up a temporary desk, then tidy it up, fold it up, put it away so you're not looking at it anymore, or whatever it may be. Clean the papers of your desk, tidy it up, mop it down, give it a bit of a dust. Set up the environment to cue the behaviors you want. If your environment's messy, what is that going to cue? Messy behavior. So put that on your checklist, right? Shut things down. Now, here's the thing. This is it. If you can practice this, guys, this is what's going to help you shut down in the evening. This is the thing. Okay. So when you shut down, you need to tell your brain you're doing so. Okay. So once you've done everything, you've put everything where it needs to go, you're going to say 3, 2, 1, shut down complete. And you're going to close your laptop or you're going to hit shut down. And suddenly you're telling your brain what the behavior is that you're starting to cue. You're building those steps to transitioning home. Right? Remember, you brush your teeth, you walk into the bathroom, like you get up in the morning, you walk into the bathroom, and then once you've walked into the bathroom, you know to reach for your toothbrush. Once you've reached for the toothbrush, you know that's all automatic behavior, but there's steps there, right? And you can create the steps to helping your system unwind by putting these cues and these behaviors in place. So by telling yourself, hey, I'm going to shut down right now and counting that down and shutting down, it's going to start the cue behavior you want. And that's not going to work all the time. And it's not going to work the first time. It takes practice. It takes effort. And maybe even if it works 4 out of 10 times, it's better than no out of 10 times, right? But remember, you don't run a marathon the first time. You break it down into small, manageable chunks. The next is you're going to put a commute in again. Right? You're going to commute. You're going to go for a walk around the block and you're going to let the social brain do what it needs to do. You're going to process the day. You're going to think about the day. You're going to do a minimum of 15 minutes with slow nasal breathing. And you're going to think about slowing down that exhale, closing down. Because as you start to close down and push back on that stress response, you're going to start to get access to more cognitive resources. Your brain's going to open up. It's going to say, hey, now I'm going to let you think about these problems and challenges and I'm going to try and give you some solutions. So take a notebook and a pen with you because it's a great place to be able to kind of deal with problems and deal with challenges. Process those thoughts with non-judgment, right? Really important. Whatever comes into your head is meant to be in your head. Stop kicking the shit out of yourself, right? If you're struggling to deal with a problem, see the next slide. We'll get there. When home, you must stay within home environment to cue desired behavior. If you go home, you open your digital environment, you check your emails, or you check your laptop again, you're not creating that process, right? So it's really important. And that's why friction and bright lines is important, because if you can't be trusted, you need to hide your phone as part of your end of your day checklist, or you need to hide your laptop, give it to a loved one, or whatever it may be. So really important. Guys, we are getting there. This went way over. Oh dear. I'll deal with it. That's all right. Right, problem solving method. So, oh, hold on. Wrong laptop. There we go. So let's say you've got a big problems. Okay. So let's say it's all too easy to work to other people's agendas. Amen to that. Absolutely. And I can do more workshops and this kind of stuff later down the line. I couldn't agree more. Guys, okay. So problem solving methods. So I have a notebook downstairs. Sometimes there's things that I can't get out of my head, right? Or it's a big challenge that I've got. And no matter how much I try and close down the stress cycles, I have a couple of good nights sleep, those things still tick over in my head. So this is my personal problem solving method. I have a notebook downstairs and I'm like, right, what's my problem? What do I know? Well, I know that I have lost all my business at the moment because I am a face-to-face coach and coronavirus has come along and fucked me, like a lot of people, right? Cool, that's life. I get it, right? What else do you know? Well, I know that I have been looking to get online for a while now, and I've been rebuilding my workshops and bits and pieces and talks. So like I've got a load of stuff there. So I kind of know that. And I know that I will always like live by my values, purpose before profits. And there's people out there and I can do stuff like this. Do you know what I mean, guys? Like what else do I know? Well, I know all this stuff. So what does the future hold, good or bad? Well, both futures haven't happened yet, right? So I can either be anxious about never earning money again, or in equal measure, I can think about how I can pivot and learn and grow and the lessons that are there. Both futures lay out there because neither of them exist right now because I'm in the present. Does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to say? So, I'm like, choose one. Which one? I can either spend all my energy being anxious about the future, or I can choose my energy thinking about a positive future, which in equal measure is just as much a reality as the anxious future. Right? So I pick one and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to pick the positive. I always pick the positive, never pick the negative. And I'm like, right, what's step one? Step one is I need to think about like restructuring my programs of work. I need to do this. Right, cool. What's step two? Well, next step two, right? And I'm breaking it down. And then, okay, cool. So I've got step one, I've got step two. Then I can break those down into smaller manageable chunks. And how can I put them in my calendar to action tomorrow? Bosh. That's my personal problem solving method, guys. So there is that bosh. Recap, switching gears. So don't go from first to fifth or fifth to first, transition. This is why you're struggling to switch off, right? You're not transitioning through the gears. The social brain needs time to process. Remember, your brain is not broken. It's doing everything that it needs to do, guys, right? It is doing everything that it needs to do. It is trying to think about your place in the world. Give it space to do that. Don't put headphones in all the time. Don't have distractions all the time. Sometimes it's good, not all the time. Create systems and checklists that you can lean on and trust when it comes to making decisions. Empty your mind, use those buckets, just get stuff out of your head to close the loops. Remember that every day is about A/B testing, right? This is just some ideas for you. You're going to fail a shitload before you succeed. And this is a lifelong practice. It really, really is, guys. And it's really thinking about not the person who's able to transition and switch gears today. Where are you going to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years time? So really important. But you start to work on this, you're able to shift your state. So we are coming towards the last couple of slides. Which is great. So these are the promised takeaways for you. The next slide after this is next steps, but promised takeaways was how to transition from work to home while working from home. Hopefully, give me an amen, give me a yes if we've managed to cover some of that for you guys. Hopefully, I'm using amen. This is awful. This is not church. I'm so sorry if you're religious. I feel really bad. You know what I'm trying to say. How to show up for loved ones with energy. So you understand this, guys, that if you work on all these micro things, right? If you work on all these small things, they will compound over days and weeks and months. And then suddenly you can find yourself with a little bit more energy and resource to better show up for loved ones at the end of the day. We've talked about how physiology is influencing psychology. Have we covered that, guys? What do you think? We have the promised takeaways. How to set up personalized environmental cues. I think we covered that for desired behaviors. We've talked about the environment. We've talked about how to commute via sights, sounds, and smells. We've talked about how to develop habit systems you can run when looking tired. Yeah, how to take control of your workload today. And I think what I've done is my recap. Yeah, these are the big things, guys. These are the big things for me. I think I took a couple of bits, like stress is our body way of giving us energy and focus. Remember that. Stress cannot be avoided. It's a fantastic resource that gives us energy and focus. Stress is the investment, but we have to understand that rest is the return on that investment. That's when all the good shit happens. Energy control underpins habit formation and behavior. The thing that I will say on this, again, guys, give me 2 more minutes. I'm going to let you go. The thing I say on this is I think the world of health and well-being can be very patronizing sometimes, because we're kind of trying to get people to create all these habits and routines and stuff like that, but we're not helping them understand that energy dictates your ability to commit and action those behaviors. The more focused your vision and attention is, the more energy you are spending to close the energy cycle. So anything, I mean, I've spent a lot of energy right now. And so you guys, I appreciate that you're still here. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. You've had a long day, right? So, you know, what are you going to do after this? How are you going to transition after this talk, right? Maybe go and sit outside for 10 to 15 minutes, take a notebook, write down some things that you've taken away and how you can action it tomorrow. You'll sleep on it. Wake up tomorrow morning. Go for that commute. Think about what you've taken away from this and how you're going to action it. Define the purpose of the environment based on desired behaviors you want. Don't go from first to fifth or fifth to first. Transition. Next steps is practice, practice, practice. We will send a webinar, a copy of this webinar workbook, and I'm going to send a reading list to you. It's not going to be too great. I'm going to throw it all together. But there's definitely going to be some bits in there, guys, that hopefully on specific subjects that if you want to read more about stress, like Chev, like how can I reframe stress? Well, there's a great book called The Upside of Stress, which can tell you all the research and a fantastic way of looking at things. How can I change my mindset? There's a great book called Mindsets by Carol Dweck that you can read. You'd also send a link to a Facebook group that I've got called The Architects of Wellbeing. It's just for good human beings. Guys, my time is your time. Ask me questions at the Wellbeing CEO. Tag me in on your journey. It's because my social media philosophy and value system is I will have this stuff in my life if I can genuinely build and connect with people out there and support them in their journey. So I'm here for you. Tag me in, give me a shout. I'm here to support you. I can say this, I don't do this enough, and I've really got to make myself do it, which is if you found this valuable, can I ask if you mind leaving a Google review and put Chevy Rough in and leave me a Google review? And I do this for 2 reasons. One is it helps me fund the 80% of business that I do for free with corporates, and by having testimonials out there, reviews out there, it just really helps me secure business down the line. But also when people are sometimes thinking about coming onto these things and they're like, who the hell is Chevy Rough? If they can read some words from you, then it might help them take those first steps to change. So it's just this ecosystem. But obviously there's a selfish reason. There's a selfless and a selfish reason. That's another workshop, selfless and selfish. We're allowed to have a selfish reason, but I think we always have to balance that with the selfless reason as well. And move it forward, guys. Like take something that you've learned and try and share it with someone. Sit down and watch this webinar or bits of this webinar with someone you love and talk about things. Like, I don't care about more medals and more times and more distances or, selling a business for 10 million. If that came at a cost, and it shouldn't come at a cost for connecting with other human beings. So please use this and move it forward. And if you have questions from loved ones, or if they want to message me, I'm happy to answer those questions as well. Guys, so I did that in double the time. 45 minutes, hour and 90 minutes later. You guys have been wonderful. I value you all. Anyone who's watching, who jumped out halfway through, whatever. I'm only joking. I'm only playing. I really appreciate it. Maggie, thank you so much. Liz, thank you so much. Lee, so much. Rich, I know you're still there. I said thank you so much. Celeste, so much. Oh, you guys, Claire, thank you. Kate, God, Armadeep, Gail, God, so lovely to know. Duda, I came back. Duda came back. Guys, my time is your time. Any feedback that you have, please do let me know. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so, so much. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely evening. How are you going to transition from this learning experience into the rest of the evening? And how are you going to transition into work tomorrow morning? Let me know how you get on. This is where I'm going to awkwardly try and shut down now, like, coolly. Guys, take care. Bye, 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 bye.